and it's Thursday. So this has to be Coffee with Ralph. I'm Ralph Gale, and I'll be your host, as I've been since the beginning of this. And I've been at this industry, the financial services industry, for, I tell people just my joke, since dirt was a chemical. That's over 30 years. And just remember something, coffeewithralph.com is a free 15-minute call. The topic for this week, I've been talking about long-term care, but this week, as I was preparing, a commercial for life insurance came on and it bothered me. And it really became the topic for this week's conversation. It's two sisters and they're about to have coffee. And one sister says to the other, "Oh my, you're still using mom's old coffee pot." "Well, I guess it is an heirloom." And the other sister says, "Well, the kids are just going to have to sell it to pay for my funeral." And she laughs. Well, there's the topic for today. This episode of Coffee with Ralph. Whose responsibility is it anyway? Remember, like I said, it's a free 15-minute call. Bring whatever question you have. Here's the deal. From the time we have kids and they're little, we teach them about responsibility. We tell them, save for a rainy day. It's your responsibility to get good grades. No one's going to do it for you. We're raising them to be responsible adults, right? They go out in the world, they start their own families, and then we need help because we're getting older. Just little things, probably. Our strength isn't what it used to be. I could get up in the morning, 5 o'clock, I could work all day till 10 o'clock at night, go to bed, get up and do it again the next day. I try that now and it's like I'll do that maybe halfway and then maybe a day later I'll try it again. We don't have the same stamina. Our bodies just don't work like they used to. I guess my 90-year-old client said it best. I'm not Superman. He just realized that at 90. I'm realizing it a bit earlier. But whose responsibility is it to plan and prepare for that time? Your kids? The time when you're going to need care. Your kids, the government? I contend it's yours, whether that's needing long-term care or preparing for your final expenses. And Hollywood's attempting to bring this issue of care, the disease of Alzheimer's dementia, into your living room. Last year, there was the show This Is Us. It was the last season for it, if you remember the show. And they kind of did a time lapse where they watched their mother struggle with Alzheimer's, and the daughter gave up her career to take care of her mom. This year, it's Chicago Med. The hospital administrator's ex-husband has been diagnosed with dementia. And she's trying to figure out how to juggle work, her new romance, caring for her ex-husband, her kids. One of them's going to have to go. Any guesses which one? Probably not her ex-husband. I'm gonna gamble on the new romance. The other day, I decided to take a break while I was preparing for this, just in an attempt to clear my mind a little bit, because this can be awfully heavy if I don't put a little levity into it. And turned on the boob tube. And the show Criminal Minds came on. I don't even care for that show, but it was the thing that clicked on. And I thought, great, this is the perfect thing to watch for a few minutes, while I clear my thought patterns. And the last minutes of the show was the one dark-haired guy, the tall guy, the brainiac, one of them. And his sister and his dad and his son are at the dining room table and they're finishing up. And the boy gets up and leaves, going to go get a game ready to play. The dad's being played by Ed Asner. I've always liked Ed, even when he was the editor on Mary Tyler Moore Show. Boy, that dated me, didn't it? Whew, be careful, Ralph. Anyway, the boy leaves the table and Ed says, "Well, here comes the talk." You see, he's been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And they're talking about a memory care facility. And he is adamantly opposed to it. And the sister steps in and says, Dad, you know, with my new promotion, I figured out I can get a 2-bedroom apartment and you can come live with me. Problem solved, right? But he looks over and he sees a picture of his dead daughter. And he says, well, you know, the doctors tell me the time's coming pretty soon when I won't even know who she is anymore. Damn this disease. Back to my question. Whose responsibility is it anyways? For years, I've fought with advisors and money managers about preparing their clients for the time when they need care. I've had plans presented to them. And their answer always sounds better than mine. So obviously, I couldn't plan for those people. Their answer, well, let's just worry about it if it happens. Some of them even say, well, we'll just hide your money for you. Come on. But that sounds good, doesn't it? If it happens. It doesn't sound, my answer doesn't sound anywhere near as fun. My answer is simple. Let's put a plan together for if and when it happens. Because frankly, the statistics are now, we got a couple. One of the two, maybe both, are going to need care. So let me give you my 2024 State of the Long-Term Care Address in Michigan. How's that one? They're in America. You know, I began this mission in 2007 when the most recent study they had was from 1997. In 97, they had 2 million people caring for 5 million family members. In 2023, which is the most recent study done by AARP, it says we now have over 38.5 million informal caregivers providing care for over 50 million family members. Wow. The time and length of care, hey, that's been pretty consistent. They say it's about 18 hours a week on average in about 4 years. So the financial toll on caregivers is one of the issues. I'm going to address some of the other issues next week, but this week I want to look at the financial issue just a minute. In 2021, because that's when they can actually add all these things up, the cost of informal care was $600 billion. That's with a B, guys, billion. And that's a big, big number. And that's a direct loss of wages to the caregiver. And it doesn't count the $500 to $700 a month of out-of-pocket expenses for gas and eating out, stuff like that. The age of the caregiver stayed about the same, about 45. But if you do your math as a side note, you'll find that 28 years ago, those who were giving care are now patients. They're now receiving care. So the message that planning for that needing care fell on deaf ears back in 97 through 2007, even 2017. And as a matter of fact, it's still falling on deaf ears. If you'd like to have a copy of this report, you can Google it. It's called Valuing the Invaluable, or I'll send you one. Just text me, message me something. Well, let me break down that 600 billion because that's a huge number, isn't it? At 18 hours a week, AARP said $16.59 was the average hourly of these 1,500 that they studied, right? Well, that's times 52 weeks because care is 52 weeks a year. Doesn't allow for a vacation in there anywhere, I don't think. But that's $15,500 a year that they've lost in their income. If you add the $500 a month, another $6,000, that's over $20,000 a year. Let's do a little time value of money study. Over 4 years, that's over 80 grand. So if you look down the road a few years, when it comes time for the retirement, even at a modest return of 4%, that's about 200 grand. That's a lot of money. That's enough to help pay for their care. That could have paid off their house. That might have been a vacation. It might have been a lot of things, but instead it was lost wages. Money aside, let me read you a clip from the report that was given from 1,500 caregivers. They interviewed 1,500. Give me page three. Carrie She's in her early 30s. She's a caregiver for her mother and her grandmother. I'm a full-time caregiver. That's right. It's what I do. I left my entire life, a life I loved in Nashville, Tennessee, to be a caregiver in Texas. I'm truly grateful to have this time with my family, but it has an incredible toll physically and mentally. That's just one. They've got other stories in here. There's Tanya, or I mean, sorry, Tanette. She's 51 in Georgia. I provided care for my disabled adult son. He has cerebral palsy and a feeding tube. In addition to caring for my son, my mother developed shingles in July, which was further complicated by a diagnosis of viral meningitis. As a result of my son's disability and the sudden illness of my mother, I had to resign my position as an assistant city manager of a coastal Georgia city. It's a very humbling experience, but despite my devotion to public service, my family comes first. I'm sorry. I'm back to my question. Whose responsibility is it anyway? That woman, both those women gave up their careers. Huh. So who's going to give up their life for you? That's really the question here. If you don't take the responsibility on, plan for your care, one of your children's going to do it, and it's going to cost them their life. They're going to give up friends. They're going to give up family. They're going to give up finances. They're going to be strained physically, emotionally, mentally. It's just not the same. You know, we're no longer able just to wish this thing away, stick it in a closet and hope it never happens to us. That commercial for life insurance that I mentioned brings us home. But here's the bigger question to me, because now, you know, my kids are getting old enough that I think about things like this. If I don't plan for this, and they have to step in and take care of me without a plan and a way to pay for it, will they see me as the responsible parent they thought I was? Or will they question every bit of the wisdom I've handed down to them over the years? You know, this has been Coffee with Ralph, and I thank you for being here and hearing me. Next week, I'm going to talk about some of the emotional, psychological impacts that providing care has on the caregiver and the recipient of that care. We sometimes forget about that. Again, Coffee with Ralph is a free 15-minute call. Let's start the conversation. Have a blessed day.